Hi everybody, Tommy here, and we're going to talk today about Martin Luther King, who was a great preacher and also a freedom rights campaigner, along with people like Jesse Jackson, and there was Malcolm X, and you have other kind of black men through time after Luther King who became prominent as well. But we're going to go to Martin Luther King especially because it's 50 years really since since his great speech at the Lincoln Monument, and Lincoln's very important because Lincoln was the one who managed to get the kind of Section 13 through the American establishment to stop slavery. So emancipation of slaves really is what Lincoln achieved, and it was something that was groundbreaking at the time and still is groundbreaking to this day. And Martin Luther King done his speech, I Have a Dream speech, right at that monument, looking over the kind of water part of Washington, and it's absolutely fantastic, inspirational speech 50 years on, for the sake of freedom and try to stop segregation on buses and cafes and so on in the days, and basically just trying to make sure that all human beings are treated in that concept where they are all human beings and they're equal. So Martin Luther King, very fascinating chap, because there was a point in his life where he decided that he wasn't going to go into the public profile. He thought to himself, no, I'm not going to do this, it's too risky. I am a coloured man, a black man, an African American man in the world of white men, and that was like white America, really, the white very strong America, who had a division still from the American Civil War, between really kind of, like people who were for freedom and people who weren't, of slaves and so on, and that carried on for a lot of years, and maybe still exists in America at times. But Martin Luther King was one of the ones who spoke out openly about it. Didn't really want to get too involved at one point in his life, but then one night he got a phone call to say, basically it was a death threat, and it says, we're going to get you and all that sort of thing. And what he decided there and then was he would go forward with the thing they were telling him not to go forward with. And that was a turning point with his life, because his life up to that point was preaching a wee bit, maybe educating an odd person on his way of thinking, and then the minute he knew his life was in danger, he decided to go with it even more, and that was what made him a famous person who stood up for human rights in America, and he inspired the whole world to a point where all over the world his portraits are painted in walls, on house sides of houses, you name it. He's got it, and other figures maybe painted beside him, such as Malcolm X and even the present day Obama, where these men are achievable in their own right. They've achieved great things and climbed great mountains, and Martin Luther King was certainly an inspiration to everybody in that genre, and very well versed, well spoken, well presented, well educated person who understood there was a better world than the one he was living in, and that's what made him special. And today we could do with somebody similar to Martin Luther King. We may have the image of him in Nelson Mandela, or President Obama of the United States of America. There is others out there who seem to be inspirational as well, but we always look back to the past, to the kind of so-called forefathers, and we do see that they have the genuine inspiration. They have the original idea. They had, in this case, I suppose, Martin Luther King had the original idea that he could stand up in a society that was segregated, black and white, and stand up and say, no, this is not how it should be. This is not the way it will be in the future. And that is why he had a dream. That is why he spoke that day at the Lincoln Memorial, and he says, "I have a dream where people are free," and he went on and he spoke great words. Now you can go to my Radio Time Machine account and you can hear it there, and you hear the whole speech. It lasts about 16-17 minutes long, and you'll be able to see exactly what I mean and how the hairs will stand up in your neck, because it's absolutely amazing speech. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Tommy, and we just thought we'd give Martin Luther King Jr. a little mention on our politics show today. And it's a shame that such a great man with such a great vision, such great influence and connection with the people at that time, 1960s, was eventually assassinated on the Doria Motel, with his kind of entourage with him, try to just wave to people and so on. And it seemed to be an era in America that was troubled, because Kennedy had the same sort of fate as well. So maybe there's lessons to be learned from it all, but certainly those dramatic exits of these great figures, especially Martin Luther King, have put them in place, set in stone for all time, for all people to read about, acknowledge, learn from, and maybe even take their work forward, these people's, like Martin Luther King's work, forward, such as Jesse Jackson in the United States, who followed Luther King, and he's became a civil rights campaigner for over 50 years now. So it's very, very inspirational and also very sad, but it's 50 years later and you can see how America's changed. They've got a black president, they've got a really, really diverse multicultural society in a mini globalised forum, and it's very inspirational that for the whole world who wants to be equal, free and have justice. Thanks very much, and tune in for the next show. It should be tomorrow. Thank you.